people, I'm here to speak to you about community-oriented policing. How very ironic to hear the social equity update praise community outreach unit and its efforts in community policing. Tony Messina told us how wonderfully effective the COU was. I was very touched to hear Glenn Cobbins talk about the trust that was built by the COU, which has now plummeted in the last week, since Chief Burton dismantled the COU unit under the supervision of Mike Mathis. Shame on you, Mr. Mathis. Shame on you.
Lynn, please direct your comments to council.
Thank you. I'm here to discuss the failure of the city manager with regards to council's directive to create a plan for department-wide community-oriented policing and seek your action in addressing this willful insubordination on his part. In spring of 2017, CPD's Community Outreach Unit took members of Race Matters Friends out for breakfast. They showed us their draft plan for department-wide community-oriented policing and asked for our feedback. Did you know that there had been drafted a plan nearly 2 years ago? You might not have, because it wasn't included in any plan since then. In February of 2018, Council directed City Manager Mathis to create a plan for department-wide community-oriented policing. Mr. Mathis then rejected the application of the leader of the COU to create the plan you asked for. Instead, he hired an officer with no experience in community-oriented policing to draft the plan. In August of 2018, the city manager submitted the plan that he and Sergeant Fox created in response to your directive. It did not include a plan for department-wide community policing. It did not include the COU's plan for department-wide community policing, even in the appendix, and it excluded any contribution from the successful COU team, which was just touted in this lovely report we just saw. You responded by asking the manager to revise the report, which is now scheduled to be presented to you next month, December 2018. Meanwhile, Deputy Chief Schluty issued an email to CPD officers explaining that the COU would be disbanded and an entirely new unit would be created. Current COU officers who have done the work that we just boasted about will not be included in the community response unit unless they apply. Their tenure so far will not be taken advantage of in creating this new unit. Why a new unit? The new CRU unit will have half as many officers as the former CO unit. It will not engage in problem-oriented response. It will engage in problem-oriented responses, but not community-oriented preventative policing, and will likely not include the officers who created a successful COU unit. When the journalists reported on the dismantling of the COU, they contacted the city manager prior to publishing their story. After the story was published, the city manager claimed he was not contacted. We have documentation showing that this is not true. Through a records request, we have received job postings for the new CRU unit issued by CPD internally with a closing date of October 26th. So while you council have been waiting for a city manager to create a plan to implement community-oriented policing, the manager and the police chief have overseen the dismantling of the COU without your knowledge. They have overseen the creation of a unit to replace COU, again, without your knowledge. And this new CRU unit will not be doing community-oriented policing. Chief Burton stood at this very podium 5 days ago to address the Citizens Police Review Board. He claimed the police officers find community-oriented policing boring. He said the community-oriented policing is not real policing. He also alleged that discussion about his dismantling of the CRU was based on confusion. He has dismantled the unit. Ask yourself the following questions. Why are those COU officers not here explaining this wonderful expansion of their work in the CRU unit, if that's what Burton says they're doing? Why are COU officers who have demonstrated what a little community policing can do not included in the new CRU? Why aren't they being interviewed on the media? And why was their input not included in the city manager's report? Several of you will be up for re-election in April. We look to you as leaders in this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney.